The grandfather clock tolled 4 times, its deep, solemn chimes echoing through the empty house like the last heartbeat of something long lost. In the sitting room, Harold Wittmann sat motionless in the worn armchair beside the fireplace. His fingers, thin and trembling, gripped a cracked leather-bound photo album. Dust floated lazily in the golden shafts of afternoon sunlight that slanted through the lace curtains, casting a quiet glow over the room's aging furniture. His glassy eyes, fogged with both age and sorrow, settled on a black and white photograph of his late husband, Thomas. They had shared a life of quiet devotion, built in the shadows during years when love like theirs wasn't safe to show. They had hidden, endured, and waited. And just when the world had finally caught up, when they could marry freely, time betrayed them. Thomas had died only 2 years after their wedding. Now all Harold had left were fading memories, a handful of tear-stained letters, and a single, priceless possession. A 1953 Rolex Submariner, a collector's treasure to others, but to Harold, it was a lifetime captured in gears and glass. The watch had once belonged to Thomas's father and had been passed down with care and pride. Harold had cherished it, not as a timepiece, but as a heartbeat that still ticked for the man he loved. He had planned to give it to his grandson Oliver when the boy turned 21. That was how he'd tell him everything. About Thomas, about their love, about the history that had been buried beneath silence. It was his legacy, his truth. But now it was gone. 3 days ago, Harold had gone to the old safe in the basement, like he did every month, as if visiting a tomb. He'd opened the familiar watch box, expecting the soft glint of metal nestled in velvet. But it was empty. At first, he doubted himself. Had he moved it? Had he forgotten something? His memory had its flaws, names, dates, appointments. But never Thomas, never that watch. That part of his past was engraved into him deeper than time itself. He had approached his son, Darren, hesitantly. Darren only shrugged, avoiding eye contact. "I don't touch your old things, Dad. Ask Ava." Ava, his daughter-in-law. Beautiful, ambitious, impeccably dressed, and cold. When Harold confronted her in the kitchen, she was rinsing dishes, her back turned. The scent of lemon soap filled the silence. "Oh, that old watch?" she said casually, not even looking at him. "I sold it last week." The world around him stopped. His mouth fell open, words refusing to form. You what?" "I needed capital for the boutique," she continued, as if discussing a pair of worn shoes. "I didn't think you were doing anything with it. I thought it was just an old trinket." A trinket. His voice came out a breathless whisper, strangled and stunned. She finally turned around, a dish towel in one hand, the other on her hip. "Look, Harold, don't get emotional. I didn't mean any harm. You don't even wear watches." He didn't scream. He didn't argue. He simply walked out the front door without another word. He wandered aimlessly through the neighborhood, each step heavier than the last, until his knees gave out beneath him at the park bench near the old church. He sat there in silence for over an hour, not praying, not crying, just breathing. The next morning, Darren arrived with 2 coffees and a weak smile. He sat down beside his father, awkward and silent for a moment before saying softly, "She didn't mean to hurt you." But Harold didn't reply, because the wound wasn't just about a stolen watch. It was about a stolen memory, a legacy erased without permission, a love dismissed as clutter. And now, sitting alone in a house filled with ghosts, Harold clutched the photo album to his chest, listening as the grandfather clock ticked on, each second like a small betrayal of everything time was supposed to protect. "She thought it was just stuff, Dad. You know how practical she is," Darren murmured, sitting stiffly at the edge of Harold's armchair. Harold didn't look at him. His gaze stayed fixed on the dying embers in the fireplace. "That wasn't stuff," he replied, his voice dry and low. That was Thomas. Darren lowered his head, the weight of guilt beginning to settle in his shoulders. I didn't know it meant that much. I always thought you never wanted to talk about the past. I was waiting for the right time, Harold said, voice softening just slightly. For Oliver. He's 19, Darren said. He's busy with school, work, college applications. He wouldn't care about some dusty watch. Harold finally turned, his eyes clear despite the tremble in his jaw. You don't know your son. In the weeks that followed, Harold began to distance himself. He stopped attending the weekly family dinners. He ignored Darren's texts and let Ava's silence stretch wide and cold. Neither of them followed up. Neither of them knocked on his door. Only Oliver came. One cloudy Thursday afternoon, Oliver showed up with a canvas bag of groceries and a shy smile. I missed you, Grandpa, he said, settling beside Harold on the creaking porch steps. They sat side by side, watching the wind tease the garden weeds, talking about school, books, and old movies. Then Oliver's eyes shifted toward the living room window, where Thomas's photograph stood quietly on the mantel, framed in dark wood and always dusted, never moved. Mom took something from here, didn't she? He asked gently. Harold sighed. Yes, a watch. It belonged to your grandfather, the man I loved. Oliver didn't blink. No shock, no judgment, just quiet understanding. I always wondered, he said. You never talked about it, about love, but you always looked at that photo like it held your whole world. Harold blinked fast, trying to clear the blur in his eyes. It did. Tell me, Oliver said. Tell me about him. So Harold told him. For the first time in decades, the dam broke. The memories poured out. Not just the good ones, not the romanticized versions, but the whole truth. He told Oliver about Thomas Wittmann, the boy with the quick laugh and the serious eyes, whom he'd met in the early 1960s. About love letters passed between floorboards in a world that would have punished them. About the years of military service, when they didn't know if they'd ever reunite. About the fear, the longing, the decades of building a quiet, hidden life together. The garden Thomas planted, the movies they watched curled up under one blanket, the fights over curtains that never really mattered, and the dandelion-filled backyard where, late in life, they finally said, I do. He spoke of the watch, how Thomas had worn it on their very first date, how it had ticked through all their years together, and how it stopped the day Thomas died. Harold had never fixed it. Somehow, having it frozen in a time made him feel like Thomas was still near, just one breath behind. By the time Harold stopped talking, Oliver's cheeks were wet. Grandpa, he whispered, voice catching, I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, my boy, Harold said gently. No, Oliver said, but I want to make it right. 2 months passed. Harold didn't ask questions, but he noticed things. Oliver making calls in hushed tones. Research tabs left open on the old laptop. Whispers over the phone. Long pauses at jewelry counters. His grandson was chasing something, and Harold let him. See? Then, just days before Christmas, Oliver returned. He placed a small velvet pouch on the kitchen table and sat across from Harold with a quiet, nervous smile. I found it, he said. Well, not the one, but it's almost identical. I know it's not the same, but this Christmas, it's yours. That year, for the first time in a long time, Harold rejoined the family dinner. He wore a pressed shirt and combed back his silver hair. And he brought a single gift, a small, carefully wrapped box with a folded letter tucked inside. So, he handed it to Ava. Inside, she found the letter. The paper shook slightly in her manicured fingers as she read. Ava, this is not anger, this is understanding. You saw an object. I saw a life. I hope one day someone sees you. Not just what you own or build or achieve, but you. The way I saw Thomas, the way Oliver sees me now. I forgive you. Harold. Ava didn't say much that night, but something flickered behind her eyes. It wasn't love, it wasn't regret, but maybe, for the first time, it was respect. As for Harold, he didn't need an apology. He didn't need justice. The past had already taken enough. What he had now was something greater. A grandson who knew the truth. A legacy preserved. A love remembered, not as shame, not as history, but as something sacred. And sometimes, that was enough.